All right, how many of us knew about server send events before ChatGPT was released? Because if I think I'm being honest, the answer is I didn't. Server send events apparently have been around for a really long time. I think they were originally part of HTML5, but in my experience, they haven't really gotten a lot of time or attention. Most people reach for WebSockets or an HTTP request with some long polling, and that is probably 90% of what I've seen. But now that a lot of these chat applications that are, utilizing LLMs and AI are using server-side events, they're getting a lot more love and a lot more attention. And so what I wanted to do today was highlight a new API that was introduced into .NET 10 that makes working with server-side events a lot easier. Now, when I've worked with server-side events, I've always thought that the front-end API, the API that we use in the browser, is actually really convenient and really nice. All you have to do is new up a instance of an event source, you pass it the endpoint that you expect to get events from, and then you just start registering what essentially are event listeners for types of events that your backend is going to yield to the front end, and then run whatever arbitrary code, right, you want to run in response to the event. However, the ease of use on the front end has not always been matched by an ease of use on the back end. You'll see here in the MDM docs, they've got an example of doing this in PHP, but it looks very similar when you do it in .NET code prior to .NET 10. You have to very specifically set a content type on your response, and then you have to very carefully create this properly structured string, essentially, that has this event label, and then it has this data label, and then you've got to make sure things are separated by the right number of new lines and no extra white space. And then things get really possibly iffy when you start wanting to dump something like a JSON string into the data. Now you have all these weird possible edge cases that you might trip over. And so it just hasn't been very handy or very easy, in my opinion, to work with, or elegant, maybe is a better word. And so what the team did, or the Microsoft team did or maybe not Microsoft team, but the .NET team did in .NET 10 is they introduced this new method off of the typed results class called server send events. And this method takes an asynchronous enumerable of this other new type called a server send event item, which itself is a generic. So you can actually pass well-structured or strongly typed data to your front end, but not have to concern yourself with how exactly should this string of text be properly formatted so that when it reaches the front end, it can be properly parsed and handled by that event source API, right? This is just making it easier to fall into what Scott Hanselman calls the pit of success. And so what I want to do very quickly is just kind of show an example of how we can go from nothing to something really, really quickly now that we have a really nice API on the front end. And now as .NET developers, we have a really nice API on the back end to make this connection really easy to establish. And then I also want to show an example of what it looked like to implement this kind of thing in a real application prior to .NET 10, and what it looks like after we kind of migrate that real application to the new way in .NET 10. So let's go ahead and jump into NeoVim, because obviously I use NeoVim, by the way. And let's just take a look at this example application, which I have set up. It's a very simple application. It's basically just a minimal API that also returns static files. And then I have a single index.html static file in the web root that has nothing but this starter HTML template, and it has this one display div, which we're going to use to essentially display a heartbeat from our backend. So let's set up the front end first, which the front end, again, like I said, I've always thought has been relatively nice to work with. First, let me silence Copilot. And the way we're going to do this on the front end is the first thing we're going to do is we're going to actually add a event listener to the document that says whenever all the content for this page loads, so we'll say DOM content loaded, we are going to do something. Whoops, I've been writing too much Go. And we are going to get a reference to our display. And let's see, that's going to be document.get elements by ID, which it has an ID of display if I could type. And then we're going to new up one of those event sources, which we looked at earlier. So this is very simple. We're just going to say event source equals new event source. And in this case, we're going to expect the events to come from an endpoint called events. This doesn't exist yet, but it will here in a little bit. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to register an event handler, basically. So we're going to say event source dot add event listener. And specifically, we're listening for an event called heart rate. And whenever we receive that event from the backend, we're going to run this function that is going to be supplied with an event as the parameter or the argument, and not square brackets, but curly brackets. In the body of our function, what we're going to do is we're going to create a new element, and we'll use the create element API. So we'll say create element, and this can just be a plain old div. And then what we're going to do is we're going to set the content, the text content of that element to be equal to the events data property. And then we're going to attach it to our display. So we'll say display.append child. And hopefully I'm typing all this correctly and we're not going to have any errors when we actually run this. But, you know, that's what you get when you're doing a single take video with live coding. It is what it is. And now what we need to do is we need to implement the backend. Now, again, in the past, this has not been as straightforward, but with the new .NET 10 APIs, it's very straightforward. So what we'll do is we'll jump up here and we'll say app.mapGet, because our event source expects this to be handled with a get method. So we'll do events like so. And then we'll just have our handler be a static method that takes a cancellation token, I think is its only argument that we need. So we'll say cancellation token, and we'll just call that CT. And then all we need to do really is one line to respond with server sent events. We can just say return typed results dot server sent events. And in this case, what it's going to want from us is it's going to want a method, or it's going to want an async enumerable of type server sent event item. And what we're going to do is we're going to declare a little static method right here in our handler to do that yielding. So we're going to say, let's say get heart rate, and we'll pass through our cancellation token like so. Now this doesn't exist obviously, so it's complaining. So let's drop down below this return statement. Let's just declare a static helper method. We'll call it static async of I enumerable, and the type we want is server sent item of type int, and then that's going to return that's going to be called the get heart rate method. And then the signature of this method is going to be a little wordy, so we're going to bring in an attribute called enumerator cancellation, and we need to bring that in with the using. And then this just allows us to tell the compiler that this cancellation token is for an async I enumerable method, which this should be I async enumerable, so that we can properly use the cancellation token in this method without running into any issues. So we'll say while the cancellation token is not canceled, so while cancellation is not requested, we're going to do something. And inside here, let's bring in this type so that it'll stop complaining. Inside here, what we'll do is we'll yield up heart rate, or heartbeats essentially. So we'll say var heart rate is equal to random.shared.next, and we'll just set a value between 60 and 100. And we'll say, okay, we're going to yield this. So we'll say yield return new SSE item of type int. And we'll pass in our data first, which is our heart rate. And then we'll set the event type specifically to the same event type that we registered a handler for on the front end, which is heart rate. And so we just want to make sure that when we're setting things up on the front and the back end, that these event types line up, or things won't work like we would expect them to, right? Because the back end isn't yielding the right type that we expect on the front end. I think that's fairly straightforward. So let's add some missing semis. And then the last thing we'll do here is we'll just simulate a little bit of a delay. So we'll say await task.delay, We'll say this, give us 2 seconds, and then we'll forward the cancellation token here as well, because you always got to pass the cancellation token. And this is complaining because of what? Well, we're missing a semicolon here. What are you complaining about? Oh, we're missing our arrow. How can we do that? And with this in place and the front end code in place, we should be able to run this application and see the back end yield up heartbeats and the front end display them, right? So, I mean, what is that? Like I don't know, 20, 30 lines of code to get started. Now, I get it. A real implementation is not going to be this simple, but I mean, it's pretty awesome that now the front end's ease of use matches, or the back end's ease of use kind of matches the front end's ease of use. So let's go ahead and run this example app. And if we open this URL in our browser, we should see some numbers be printed out. So let's go ahead and open our browser back up. We'll paste that URL in there. And let's see. So there's our first number. There's our second number. And it'll just keep doing that. I'll just sit there and keep listening for events and responding to them. And the front end will just react to those events however you've defined the front end to react. So that's pretty cool, right? Now, you're probably like, okay, Steven, that's cool and all, but it's very trivial implementation. It's not super helpful for anything important. And I think I'd kind of have to agree with you. So let me show you this application that I've been using to kind of explore some ideas about chat apps and how to work with application that has, you know, a user has multiple tabs open. I want to sort of have state synced across those tabs, right? So what I mean by that is essentially these two tabs of my application are talking to the same event source that's running in a shared worker. So if I type a message here, it's going to show up in the other tab. And when the LLM responds, it's going to show up in both tabs, right? So the same thing if I type a message on the right tab, let's do what is physics, because who knows what that is. And then we'll see the LLM's going to respond on the left, is going to respond on the right, right? Pretty cool. So the question then becomes, okay, well, so how does this new .NET 10 API help us with this application? Well, if we go and look at the implementation here, how it used to be in .NET, you'll see what I mean by doable, but not really elegant, right? So if we look down here at our method that yields the events, you can kind of see it's very similar to that PHP example in the MDM docs. We have to set a content type very explicitly. And then down here where we're actually yielding the events, we have to be very concerned with making sure we build this string properly. And then you can see right now, I'm just kind of wholly ignoring the whole JSON edge cases. I'm just serializing a structured type from C#. I'm just serializing that into a JSON string and then sticking that into the data portion of our server send event message. And then we're having to write that to the response. And then we also have to remember to flush the body. And then we have to do that again when we want to send kind of our terminating event type so that our front end can know, you know, the LLM's done responding, right? We're basically streaming chunks from the LLM to our front end, and then we have to also signal to the front end, hey, you can move on because the LLM has taken its turn, basically. So I'm not gonna delete all this code and then type what the code looks like for .NET 10. What I'm gonna do is I'm just going to go to the reference code I have off here on another monitor, and I'm just gonna copy and paste it because I think it kind of illustrates the same point. So let me get that code and we can paste that in. So jump down here. I think I want all of that. And then we'll highlight all of this code in our handler. And we're just going to replace it with the code that I've copied from the reference app. Sorry, this is a little not fluid transition here, but it's what you get with live coding, okay? This is just how it is. And we're just going to paste that in over here, which I have, so I'm working from another buffer. I need to yank that to the right clipboard. Again, I apologize. I realize this could be smoother, but again, it is what it is. So we will paste that in there. Now it's complaining because we don't have the usings. Let's go ahead and add those, right? So everyone's happy again. So you can see this cleans it up, in my opinion, quite a bit. It's basically saying, okay, we're going to get the user ID from context. We've got some stuff going on here with a chat queue and a user conversation. But here you can see we're using the new server send events API method. And then we're passing in a call to the stream chat messages method, which returns, very similar to the example I showed you, an IAsync enumerable. And then in our method, all we're doing is we have that same while loop, and we're saying, hey, as long as the cancellation token hasn't been requested, we are just going to yield a server sent event item of type chat message, which in this case now I can just trust that, hey, the server sent event item knows how to represent itself as a properly structured server sent event. I don't have to concern myself with that. And then I can do the same thing for the end message down below. So now with all that in place, the front end will handle everything the same as it was before, but I've got a much simpler representation of this in code and less opportunity to screw up the structure of that server sent event and cause me pain and problems every time I want to work with server sent events. So with all that being said, I hope you found this helpful and educational and maybe turns you on to this new API that exists in .NET 10 moving forward, and maybe you can find a use case for server send events in the next application that you built. Obviously, if you think I could have done this better, or maybe there's something I glossed over or you'd like to expand on, just go to the comments, leave a message. I'd love to hear from you guys, whether you found it helpful or not helpful, or if you just want to educate me on why I'm wrong, that's fine too. I'm learning just like all of you guys, so I'm happy to hear from y'all. And with that, I will say I hope you guys are having a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next video. All right, bye y'all.